I only have one objective with this podcast in your life. If I can achieve this with your life, if I can help you to achieve this, I did it all, right? And this is the objective or the aim that I have is that in a couple of years, maybe 20 years from now, 30 years from now, you will be walking on a street randomly, right? Just tranquil, walking on the street, and people will look at you, will stare at you, and they will start doing this noise. And you will be like, what the hell is that? And then you will look around maybe to an old man, and the old man will look back to you and he will say, and you will say like, what the hell? And you will like run a little bit, and you will then uh find like an alley, and there's some kids there, like some kids playing with a ball, and those kids stare at you, and they all do like, and you're like, what is going on? Let me tell you what is gonna be going on, my friend, because I don't want you to be scared, and I don't want you to believe that the world became crazy and that everyone is doing weird noises. No, 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 that is not what is going on in this utopia or in this potential future for you if you implement everything that I will teach you in this podcast. What is going on in this potential future is that you, my friend, yes, you, the one that is in the other side of the screen, you are, and you turn to be, and you transformed into the greatest of all time, the GOAT. And that's why people are doing that sound to you, because you are the GOAT. Because in 20, 30 years, you can be the GOAT. You can be the greatest of all time. You can be the best of the best in your own industry, in your own area, in your niche. Now, I will not kidding, and I will not lie in this podcast. This is a very difficult effort. This is one of the most challengeful things that you can ever try to accomplish. By definition, only one can do it, right? Only one can be the greatest. So, by definition, it's gonna be very, very hard to do it. Like 99% chances that you will not able to pull this off. But hey, who cares? Who cares if at the end of the day you pull this off or not? I think that is gonna be a lot of fun and a great adventure just to try and see what can you do, what type of damage can you do, what type of spirit you can bring to the game. This is what it's all about, folks. Bringing a new spirit to the game, bringing a revolution to the game, bringing the GOAT, the greatest of all time, the status to the game. And yeah, I know I have the worst GOAT sound in the world. But hey, at least in this podcast, you don't only will hear the worst sound of GOAT in the world, but also, let me promise you something. You will understand exactly, step by step, all the mechanics, all the secrets, all the parameters to be the greatest of all time. Welcome, my friend, to the most transformational podcast in the world. This is the episode 530, and this is your host, Dr. Derek Israel. I'm a clinical psychologist, entrepreneur, and a podcaster. And hey, my friend, welcome. We are doing this every Monday through Friday, approximately after 4 a.m. MST. And if this is your first episode that you are watching on the podcast, consider to subscribe because I will transform your life today, and I will do that for every day of my life. Science today, if you decide to join us in this adventure. Okay, so before we go into all the mechanics that you need to understand in order to be the GOAT, let me give you two announcements that I believe are very important for you to understand the whole context. The first one is that if you want to join a free mastermind group, I have one on Telegram. It is a group that is based on this podcast. All right, so we are discussing everything that we are learning. We are supporting each other. I am giving challenges, extra challenges, and also asking extra questions, extra benefits. So, for example, I'm about to download the mind to another huge figure worldwide. Download the Mind is a mini series of this podcast in which I download the mental software of people that are changing the world. So I'm gonna be download a new mind like maybe today, maybe tomorrow, like very soon, and only the people in that chat knows who I'm gonna be downloading the mind. So they are receiving special benefits. So if you want to join us, just go to the link in where it says, join the Telegram group, and you just hit join, download the app, and hey, join us and share with us. The second announcement is that this GOAT episode is part of a kind of a mini series. So I will not put mini series in the title, nothing like that. It's not gonna be like an official mini series, but yes, for us, for you that you are holistic, that you are big picture minded, I want you to understand that this have a sequence, and this is the second part of the sequence. I already discussed the first one is on Spanish only. Sorry guys, for you guys that are, starting to watching the podcast now for the first time. Yes, I know that I have a lot of on Spanish. I did like almost 500, like 480, something like that, episodes on Spanish. So yeah, I have a lot of reference on Spanish. But if you are Spanish speaker, you can benefit. And if you're not Spanish speaker, I will discuss the idea briefly here, and you will benefit as well. So it's the best for the both world, right? But for the both worlds. So the first episode of this sequence is the importance. It is titled the importance of being the best. The importance of being the best. In Spanish, la importancia de ser el mejor. Búscalo en mi canal de YouTube o en mi estación de Spotify. And in that episode, just for you, brief, kind of quick VIP, how do you say, express knowledge and wisdom. In that episode, I just discussed the philosophy about that it's good to be the best. That's it. And you may say, wow, Derek, that is not kind of a very inventive and innovative idea. But yeah, it is not. But at the same time, it's very important because we are living in the culture of the average right now, in which everyone have a medal of participation, everyone gets an award, and being the truly best, it is not something that is virtuous anymore. It is not something that you don't hear kind of everyone talking about it. So yes, sometimes we hear it like people that are very capitalistic and industrious mindset or industrious minded, like I want to be the best. You can be the best, right? But they are the small percentage of people, and also that discourse is kind of uh ego, very ego based and distorted. So it's not the best example. What is the best example in my case is to be the best, but without attachment. To be the best because you are competing against yourself And because to be the best, it is a mindset that will bring the best to the game, like will stretch your personality, will make you to become more disciplined than ever, and will make you to become more strategist or strategist, and implement strategist better than ever. So that's why I believe that being the best is being the best, is the best decision that you can do. So that is the first idea. The second idea in this sequence is that, okay, one thing is to be the best, right? The best that you can be. But it's a different thing. It's a whole new level, because life is about levels. You can do one thing locally, you can do one thing globally, you can do one thing universally, you can do that same thing multi-universally, right? You can do in different levels of achievement and power and potency. So one thing is to be the best, and another different thing is to be the best of all time. Just digest this idea for a second. One thing is to be the best, and another new different level of thing, of being, of existing, of operating, is to be the best of all. Oh, sorry guys. I have a, how do you say that? I don't want to say something that is not appropriate. Anyways, uh-huh. One thing is to be the best, and another thing is to be the best of all time. So this podcast of today specifically is about that second idea. But hey, we don't end here. We have two more to go. So tomorrow, in the most transformational podcast in the world, the Mastermind Podcast, we're gonna be discussing the next step. Once you are the best of all time, you have one more step to go that I called how to be a legend. Interesting, huh? Interesting. I will not give you the details today. You need to come tomorrow to pass to the next level, almost the final level. Oh, hey, I did a mistake. That episode, it is not tomorrow. It is the day after tomorrow. Tomorrow is going to be like a process that is necessary to first being the best, to second being the best of all time, and to third being a legend. So you need to do this that I'm gonna be discussing tomorrow. You need to do this in during the whole process of your greatness, and that is how to operate in tan 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 tan, how to operate in God mode. How to operate in God mode. Right, and that is imperative to become a legend, to become the greatest of all time. And I will give you all the details tomorrow. So, without further introduction, let's go to the podcast of today. Shall we? What is the GOAT? What is the GOAT? Interesting question. And I think that we kind of know, right? Because the GOAT, it is something that is very popular these days. Like every universe, and what I mean every universe, for example, the NBA is a universe, the WWE wrestling world is a universe, like the NASCAR is a universe, like I don't know, maybe Hollywood is kind of a universe. Like every area, and not only every area, because for example, wrestling have an area, it's an area, right? But WWE is kind of a area inside wrestling. So every dimension, every area, and every brand and every industry, they all kind of have right now this GOAT status for someone. It is reserved, or maybe if they are kind of a new industry, they are looking for that one. For example, when Rousey was on the UFC for the woman division, she was the GOAT, and she was like the first GOAT. I don't know. I may be mistaken because I don't know too much about UFC. I am learning more now about martial arts and fighting, but what I know is that I didn't know the women division until Ronda Rousey. So Ronda Rousey was like the first big face, the first big GOAT. Now there may be another woman that is better than her. I don't know, but she have that status, at least in the UFC, right? So uh, every area have the status, and it's very popular. So a lot of people now know what is the goat, right? It's not something very esoteric. But for this definition, or for this purpose in this podcast, the goat is basically, the best of all time. That's it, as simple as that. It's the best of the best. It's the best of, the best to ever do it in a specific industry, and in a specific time, in a specific area. And we all know that the goat, the animal, is the symbol of this, because the abbreviation of, you know, greatest of all time, it is the goat. So that's why in Spanish is the cabra. We say to the people that is the greatest of all time, la cabra. So, for example, we say Michael Jordan is la cabra, the goat, or LeBron James is la cabra. Daddy Yankee has this Daddy Yankee is one of the greatest rapper of all time, like in the reggaeton industry or dimension or genre. And he considered himself to be the GOAT, and he put it La Cabra, or the GOAT, in the front wallpaper or cover of his last album. So yeah, this is something that is very, very, very common, folks. So another thing that you may be asking, it is possible to have multiple GOATs, because by definition is the greatest of all time. So it kind of suggests that it's only one. So it is possible to have multiple goats. Yes, it is possible to have multiple goats, but this will always be in conflict. And these multiple goats will be in conflict with each other. And this point is very important, and this point will contrast with the legend status that I will be discussing in 2 days. All right, because when we are in a legend status, we are beyond being the GOAT. And when we are in a legendary status, all right, we are not in conflict with other legends. So that is a point of contrast between this idea of the GOAT and the legend idea, how to be a legend. So let's focus on this one. So yeah, we can have multiple goats. Why is that? Because people will never agree who is the goat most of the time. Sometimes they do it, but sometimes they fight each other around who is the goat. Why is that? Because yeah, goat, to be the goat, have a very objective kind of dimension with records, data, numbers, key performance indicators, as I will be discussing in one of the uh, in what I call the definite steps to be the GOAT. But also the GOAT have a subjective element. So it's not only objective data, folks. To be the GOAT also have perception. It is all about perception. Who do you perceive to be the GOAT? And when we are talking about perception, we are talking about personality, individuality, and subjective experiences, right? So everyone will have a different kind of subjective experience. So everyone will say, oh, this is the GOAT. And maybe another people will say, no, 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 this is the GOAT. Hey, this is what is happening right now between who is the GOAT. LeBron James versus Michael Jordan. Who is the GOAT? Hey, wait, if you ask me, if you ask Derek Israel, who only is a fan of NBA, but is by far he's not an any type of professional in the basketball industry. But if you ask me, I will say I think that LeBron James is the GOAT. A lot of people will not like that answer, but that's okay, because a lot of people will say no, 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 Michael Jordan is the GOAT, and another people will say no, 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 the GOAT really is Kobe Bryant. And you may say, oh, what? But Kobe Bryant, let's be real, man. Kobe Bryant cannot be in this conversation. Kobe Bryant, yes, he died in a tragic way. He's a legend, blah, blah, blah. But he's not the greatest of all time. Yeah, that is your opinion. If we ask 1,000 people, I assure you, man, I guarantee you, if we ask 1,000 people who is the greatest basketball player of all time, at least one or two people will say Kobe Bryant. So he's statistically in the conversation. He may not be the greatest of all time. I agree with that. But he's at least in the conversation as I will be teaching you in the definite steps to be the GOAT right now, very soon in this podcast, to be in the conversation, that is the whole objective. Just to be in the conversation, that is the whole objective. So yeah, we can have multiple GOATs, but at the same time they will be on conflict, and we can have multiple goats because we have different generations. And when we are talking about the goat, we are mostly talking about someone that impact greatly his generation, like he's a hallmark in his generation. Like for example, in the WWE universe, I'm a very huge fanatic of wrestling entertainment and WWE. And in WWE, they have like the GOAT of the greatest of all time, The Rock. One is like in his generation, but also it is considered a GOAT, Hulk Hogan, because he's a little bit older. And also after The Rock, John Cena, it is considered the GOAT. And at least for most people. And right now we are kind of seeing a new generation of new wrestlers that are fighting about who is gonna be the GOAT, the next GOAT. So we can understand that we can have different GOATs and they are always in conflict with each other. And fanatics are always fighting with each other who is the best or who is not the best, based on one, objective data, and second, subjective data that is always going to be in the game. So you may ask, okay, Derek, that sounds cool. I kind of understand. And I kind of, I'm a little bit motivated to try to do this. All right. But it is really important to achieve the GOAT status. Like, Derek, tell me the truth. It is really imperative for personal development, for spiritual expansion, for maximum growth. It is really necessary that I should pursuing that type of thing. Let me tell you something. And this is the definite answer. No. No. It is not necessary. All right? It is not so important. But that doesn't mean that you should not be trying to achieve it. All right? You should not get attached to nothing, my friend, in this life. If you get attached to any idea, it may be a personal development idea, it's still attachment. You can be attached to love, it's still attachment. You can be attached to consciousness or to compassion, very high level virtues, very high level divine constitutional values. Search that term in my YouTube channel if you want to know more about that subject. Divine constitutional values is essential for your integrity if you want to know more about it. And also, I will be discussing ultimate integrity, I think, this Friday in the Mastermind podcast. So that's that that episode is coming this week as well. So it is not important and it's not recommended that you get attached to it, but I think it is very, very virtuous and very, very powerful to pursue. So it's not imperative, it is not essential, it is not fundamental at all. But for me, I consider this goal of being the greatest of all time so big, man. So extraordinary, so out of the norm that I think that is epic to try to do this. Because listen, this will demand your greatest personal development to pull this off, to really be the greatest of all time in your own area, in your own industry, in whatever you do, will demand your greatest effort in your whole life. Because, hey, just look around. What do you do for a living? Maybe you are a musician. You have a lot of competition. You know, if you are a painter, you are competing against Van Gogh, you are competing against Picasso. They are probably the GOATs. Leonardo. Da Vinci? Oh my God. You are in a tough competition. You need to strive better. You need to develop some hunger. You need to develop some plan, some strategy, some game. Do you feel me? Maybe you are in the, I don't know, in the scientist kind of realm. Well, you are competing against Sigmund Freud, Albert Einstein, Isaac Newton, uh, you know, Hawking's, Richard Dawkins, Carl Sagan. You are working with the best. You are competing against the best. Remember, when we're talking about being the GOAT, yes, you are competing against your generation, but the greatest of all time is of all time. We're not talking about only the greatest of the generation. No, we're talking about all time. So you need to go back to the pioneers. If you want to be the best philosopher, you're gonna be competing against Aristotle, Plato, Marcus Aurelius, Foucault. How many? So this will demand the best of you, and you may say, "Oh my God, Derek, that is so narcissistic." A colleague of mine a couple of years ago, I was having a conversation about him. I was having a conversation with him, drinking some beers and having fun in group, uh, in a club, and I was talking up with him, and I said to him something like, I don't remember exactly how I said it, but I think that I said something like, "It will be so nice to break the Sigmund Freud record as the greatest of all time in psychology. Like, it will be so cool to do it. Do you think so?" And he said something like, "Oh man, Derek, oh my, that is crazy. We cannot do that. Like, he's Sigmund Freud. He's Sigmund Freud. He did this, he did that. He's the greatest of all time." Like, to think that is so narcissistic, Derek. Like, man, now, be realistic. He told me something like that. And I was like kind of a little bit disappointed, but in the other hand, I was kind of, yeah, that's how 99% of people think. That's why 99% they never achieve the status of the GOAT. So I will not think that. Since the beginning, folks, I have been always trying to be the GOAT, always trying to be the greatest of all time. I'm 27 years old. I have been almost 6 years of career. I'm starting out. I'm very far away. I maybe will not achieve this, and I don't care if I achieve this. I don't care if I'm considered the greatest psychologist of all time. I don't care if I achieve it, but in my mind, in my journey, I am striving for it. I care in my journey what people say, what people consider. At the end of the day, at the end of my career, I don't have control over that. I'm doing whatever my spirit is trying to do, my spirit is forcing me to do, to try to be the best of all time. If at the end of the day I am or not, I don't care about it. But I am here in the hustle. I am changing the language. I'm expanding my vocabulary. I am expanding my theoretical frameworks. I am expanding the technologies that I work, podcasting, videos, uh, blogging, music, subliminals. So I'm expanding. Why I'm expanding? Because I know that holism is one of the variables that people take into consideration when we are talking about being the greatest of all time and having the greatest impact of all time. Because that is what it's all about, right? It's not about being the greatest of all time. It's about having the greatest impact of all time. But to have the greatest impact, most of the time you need to be the greatest of all time. Not all the time, but most of the time. So yeah, most people will not try to do this, and they are right. They should not try to do this because this is not important. But if you are one of the crazy ones that wants to achieve a degree of competition that you have never thought possible, if you are one of the great ones that wants to strive and strive and stretch your potential, and you want to compete with the best of the best, and you want to study them and download their minds because you want to improve and you want to innovate and you want to disrupt every rule that have been writing before you and to rewrite them in a more exotic way, well, my friend, to become the GOAT one is not an option for you. This is mandatory. This is mandatory for you. All right, my friends. So now open your heart, open your soul, and open your notebook because now I will be explaining what you have been waiting for. And the last one will be the most important. So don't quit in the middle of the way. I will be discussing what I call the definitive steps to be the greatest of all time. So, the first definitive step to be the greatest of all time is that you need to put your name in the GOAT conversation. That's it. Hey, this is the first step. And a lot of people do not understand this. A lot of people, they are so concentrated in numbers, in records, in data, in breaking that objective kind of dimension of being the GOAT, that they forgot that the whole point of being the GOAT is only this, to be in the conversation. That's it. Because to be the GOAT, that is impossible. That is not a place to you achieve. That is only perception. That is only opinion. That is only subjective discourse and narrative. And every culture, every generation will change the GOAT because the values will change. And who is the GOAT based on that value, who is perceived to be the GOAT, will change. So the whole journey and the whole deal is just to be in the conversation. You want to be in the conversation on the table when people are discussing, okay, who is the ghost? Who is the goat? Who do you think? I think it is this one. Who do you think? I think it is this other one. Oh, in the music industry, Michael Jackson. Okay, no. I don't think it's Michael Jackson, man. I think it's Freddie Mercury. No, man, I think it's John Lennon. Definitely is Paul McCartney. Folks, what? No, it's Whitney Houston, man. Whitney Houston is the greatest musician, artist, like singer in the world. Like blah 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 blah. Do you understand? And yes, I think that I mixed like band, rocks, pop, musicians, singers, because I was, having music as a whole industry as the parameter and the calibration for discussing about the GOAT, but you can separate that in niches, like who is the greatest in the pop industry? Yeah, it's the Michael Jackson. No, it's Katy Perry, blah, blah, blah. Or in the rock industry, yes, it's Elvis Presley. Man, no, man, it's Queen or whatever. You understand the point. So you want to be in the conversation, that's it. But when people talk about your specific industry, and when people talk about who is the best, you want to be mentioned. That's it. If you can realize that, if you can accomplish that, as Charlotte Flair, she may be considered the greatest woman wrestler in all time. His father may be considered the greatest wrestler of all time also. He's in the conversation. Also, the Undertaker is in the conversation, but Charlotte Flair, his daughter, she always do like this, like she's cleaning the mess because she's the best, like this gesture. And hey, if you can be in the conversation, you can do this. You already achieved it, man. You already done it. You are in the conversation forever. So the second definitive step that you need to do to be the greatest of all time is you need to break records. And I think that you should be kind of understanding this point because this is like the most common point that people talks about when we are talking about being the GOAT. Um, And yeah, it's very important. You cannot be considered the GOAT if you don't have the numbers. Don't get me wrong. Yes, I'm talking about the importance of subjectivity, the importance of perception, and I'm talking about also the importance of not only hitting the numbers, but having an aura of greatness surrounding you and doing things outside your area that contribute to be the GOAT. For example, for you to be the GOAT, for example, LeBron James, he's not only the GOAT, or at least in the conversation, because of basketball. He's also there because he has been so disciplined in his life. Like he almost is always out of trouble. Almost. He's not perfect. He's sometimes in trouble, but he has a very, very good behavior. He's also a person that is contributing to community, building schools, providing education. So that is something that adds to his greatness. So when we are talking about being the greatest of all time, we are not only talking about data, also subjectivity, but data and records are very important. You need to break some of those, man. If you want to be the best on baseball industry, you need to break some records of hits, maybe some records of home runs, or maybe some records of, I don't know. What is another record that you can break in baseball? Like maybe punching out. How do you say punch? It's not punching out. I don't know how do you say when you like make the guy in English. I know how to say in Spanish, but when you make the guy miss 3 times in a row, like how do you say that? If you're a pitcher, you want to break maybe that record, so you want to break some records. So for that, first of all, you need to understand what is the records. You need to understand what you need to break. It's like David Goggins says: if you know that you need to do 1,000 pull-ups in 1 hour, you have all the information that you need in the world. Yes, it's going to be very difficult to do 1,000 pull-ups in 1 hour, but at least you know how many you need to do. Like you just divide, 1,000 per 60 minutes, right? And you know how many pull-ups do you need to do every minute in order to pull that off. So you need to know what you are breaking if you want to break it. So you need to do your research. You need to study what is the current GOAT, what is the current greatest of all time, and then you need to set the standard for your own record to be greater, and just shoot at it and go all in with mighty discipline, with ferocious determination. And hey, I think that to talk about the notes or the nucleus of success, the different type of mindsets, is gonna be too much for this podcast. But you kind of know what you need to bring to the table. You kind of know what are the constitutions, what are the foundations of being the greatest of all time. Like you need to be the discipline. You need to be disciplined. You need to be ferocious. You need to be motivated. You need to work in teams. You need to have a good support team, support system. You need to stay in the long game. So you need to do all of that, but also you need to break records. All right. So the third definite step to become the greatest of all time is that you need to create a new and singular style to play the game. All right, you need to create a new and a singular or individual or very particular style to play the game or to do what you do. Like you cannot copy the greatest of all time and copy everything like a copycat and then do good and like do extraordinary and then believe that you will be considered the greatest of all time. Now, you will maybe consider one of the best, but you are just a copy. If you don't innovate, if you don't disrupt the current code, you cannot be considered the greatest of all time. To be the greatest of all time, you need to break the code. You need to bring new code to life, right? You need to bring the new spirit to life. Like let's go back to LeBron James. Like LeBron James, yes, he can play like Mike. He can shoot like Mike if he wants, but also he can pass like Magic, and he can rebound like Shaq. I don't know. I'm just making exaggerations, but he can do all around play. Like he can play all around. He was the first one to do that in a high level, like in the greatest level of all time, right? So he's particular in that way. Like Jordan is particular in his own way. He changed the game forever. Kobe is particular in his own way. Dwayne Wade is particular in his own way. And is his own way. Mayweather, he changed the game. He's the greatest of all time. He's the GOAT. You may say, oh no, he's not the GOAT. You know, um, Muhammad Ali, he's the GOAT. Yes, it may be. Like it's perception because he was his own universe also. Ali changed the game. He was particular. He was singular. He created a new code. That's why he's considered. Uh, right? So when you are playing the game, man, you need to bring something new to the table. Take the best of every goat. Like take the best of them and then disrupt that and create your new path. Create your new system. Create your new style. You see, it's like one of the things that Daddy Yankee, the greatest of all time in reggaeton, he did when he retired is like he passed the power or he passed the authority to Bad Bunny, right? And that was very symbolic in Puerto Rico. Like, okay, so now the greatest of all time is like initiating the next greatest of all time, that is Bad Bunny. But when you analyze both of them, they are different. Like they are different generations and also they have different styles. They both created their game. Like Bad Bunny has his own universe, his own gravitational potency. And Daddy Yankee as well. So you need to discover that for your own, and then you need to manifest the greatest potency of your particular game as the best of your ability for a long-term framework in order to be the greatest of all time. The next definitive step is that more than a player, you need to be a movement. More than a player or more than an actor in that certain area, you need to be a movement. The greatest of all times, they are movements. LeBron James is a movement. All right. Uh, Bad Bunny is a movement. All right. Um, John Cena is a movement. So when we are talking about John Cena, we are not talking about only the wrestler, but also the values that John Cena brings to the table. You may like it or you may not. I used to hate John Cena for most of my life. Now that I'm getting older, I am appreciating what he did in wrestling, right? Like he promoted values that were good for kids, like being a peaceful maker, be gentle, very kind, being empathetic, being a good guy, having a good heart, being compassionate. And you may say, yeah, but Derek, man, he destroyed his shadow. Like he never got integrated. And I agree with that. He never was a rude player. Like he tried in the beginning, but he never like went like Roman Reigns in the current wrestling. Like he can be babyface, but also he can be rude. He can be good and he can be bad. For me, that is better than only being one dimension. But John Cena had his own movement with his own, values, and that is very good to be considered the greatest of all time. um, Michael Jackson, he had a movement. He was a movement. He was the movement of the pop, right? Um, Gary Vaynerchuk, he may be considered the greatest marketer of all time. He's not just a guy. He's not just a brand. He's a movement. He moved things. He created things. He influenced the mass. He influenced perpetually culture. The Kardashians, they may be the greatest media kind of, how do you can celebrities, you may say. They may be, Kim Kardashian, she may be the greatest celebrity of all time. She may be. And she's not only a celebrity, she's a movement. Kanji, he may be the greatest rapper of all time. He may be, he's not an artist, he's not only a singer, he's a movement. I think that you get it right now. Just think about the greatest of all time, and you will see behind them a movement. Sigmund Freud in psychology, he's a movement. He's the psychoanalytic movement. Carl Jung, he's also considered a goat. He's a movement. He's a movement. Isaac Newton, Einstein. You see. So become a movement. And maybe I can do in the future an episode on how to create your own movement. So let me just take 1 second to put it this potential subject for the podcast in my list, because if not, hey, I forget how to create a movement. I think it's necessary to talk about it because it's difficult. I have been creating my own movement for 6 years, and it's difficult. So now I'm kind of learning how to do it. But anyways, let's go to the next one. You need to divide the public, the best of all time, always. Never forget this, my friend. Never forget this. The best of all time, always divide the public. What the hell that means? Well, 50% of people will hate you, 50% they will love you. Like, who may be one of the greatest business entrepreneurs of all time? You love it or you hate it, Donald Trump. He's in the conversation. Definitely he is in the conversation. We have a guy that is billionaire, a serial entrepreneur, successful in different industries, successful in TV shows, successful in the books publishing industry, successful in real estate, successful in building hotels and casinos and golf parks. And he was successful in politics. So we have one of the greatest of all time right here in the entrepreneurship, right? And that guy, he always divide the public. 50% of the people hate him, 50% of the people loves him. The greatest of all time. LeBron James, 50-50. Mayweather, 50-50. John Cena, 50-50. Kim Kardashian, 50-50. Jesus Christ, 50-50. Jesus Christ may be the greatest of all time in the religious, spiritual dimension. 50-50. Buddha, Muhammad. Do you like Muhammad? Do you like the prophet of the Muslims? You may say, "Oh no, those Muslims, no, they are terrorists." You may be that stereotype, you may be, and that is a very sad thing. I'm just personifying. How do you say? I am just personizing, or just acting a voice that is not my own public opinion or private opinion. I love Muslims, but this is what people may think about them, sadly, right? Because of the stigma that we are trying to create a consciousness and to create less of it. But you may think, oh no, they're Muslims, they are terrorists. I will not like their prophet at all. Muhammad, I will not like him. But guess what? That is the second religion in the world, the biggest religion in the world after Christianity. So 50% of the people, right? That is a kind of a rough estimation, but you get the point. Like half of the people love him and consider him your Jesus and consider him your Buddha or your Krishna or whatever you believe, man, or your Moses. So Muhammad may be the GOAT because he divides the public. So you need to become at peace with the fact that a lot of people will hate you when you are going to the GOAT status, to the greatest of all time. And that's good. They will hate you because you are going to the greatest level. And in the greatest level, gonna you're gonna disrupt some things. You're gonna shake things. You're gonna remove some pieces, and people are very attached to their old heroes. And if you are becoming a new hero, if you are becoming a new character in the game, they will push back. They will push back. So hey, you need to be at peace with it. The next requirement is that you need to be for the long game. All right, for the long game. And this is not mandatory, but it is recommended. Like, it is possible to be the greatest of all time and only do it like 1 year or 2 years. Like, it is possible. Like, it is possible. Um, But what I have been studying, because I have been studying goats for a couple of years now, like the psychology of the goat, the psychology of the greatest of all time, the high performer, the greatest performer. What I've been noticing is this common pattern that people that are considered goats, they have long careers. They have very long careers. Okay, so if LeBron only had like 5 seasons, he will not be in the conversation. He's in the conversation because he has a long career that gave him time to break the records, to develop his own style, to win some championships, to divide the public, to do all the things that I already explained to you. Time is important. Donald Trump, he has been on the game how much? Like for 60 years approximately, like being in the business world, being in the hustle world, being in the media world. Almost 60 years, a long road. Mayweather, Floyd Jr., he started boxing very young. He's 44 years today. I saw a post yesterday that he was 44 or something like that, and he's still boxing. Now he's boxing like the exhibition boxing, no professional boxing, but he's still on the game. He's in the long term game. Elon Musk, he can be considered the most powerful entrepreneur of all time, the GOAT. He may be the GOAT in inventions also. He has been for a long time since he co-founded PayPal back in the day. Now he's trying to buy Twitter or sabotage Twitter or to revolutionize Twitter, whatever you want to perceive it. Um, he's in the long game business. So if you want to be the GOAT, you need to get your mind right. And you need to go for the decades and for the centuries. We are living in man, this Google help me, because I was saying the word badly. I was pronouncing the word badly. Uh, and now I want to know exactly how I can pronounce it.
Epic.
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 Yeah, the epic, the age is another, the century, the epic. I don't like that word, epic. I don't know why it's
Epic.
epic. Why it sounds like epic to be epic? I don't know. Anyways, um, I forgot what I was about to say. So yes. You need to go for the long game, my friend. So make sure this is the next one. Make sure to train and to leave behind some disciples, all right, some students, all right, some people that can replicate or innovate or further progress your work. This is the next thing. If you notice, the greatest of all times, they become mentors in a stage. Randy Orton is one of the goats. He can be considered one of the goats. He's my favorite wrestler of our time, and he's right now like mentoring Riddle. in the WWE. Like he's the GOAT, but he's mentoring someone else. LeBron James, he did this with Kyrie Irving. He did this with Anthony Davis. He do it with everyone, but those were like good mentorees for him. Like you may say, oh man, Kyrie Irving, he was on his own. He was his own GOAT. It may be, but in the mindset of LeBron James, he was his mentoree. So maybe Kyrie Irving didn't perceive it like that. Kyrie Irving perceived it as a competition between them, right? But that is a long story. Um, but yes, goats, they develop students. Freud did it, Jung did it, Einstein did it. Like if you are going to the long run and you are creating a movement, people that likes a lot your work, they will become near and they will try to download your mind. And your responsibility in this position is to try to teach them, not to brainwash them to perceive you as the only bringer of the truth, because then that is a cult. But yes, you can train them to think in certain parameters, and then they can continue your work, disrupting your work. You know, that is the most important thing, that you inspire people to disrupt your work. You don't want them to replicate your work. You want them to disrupt and innovate your work. That is evolution, folks. Without that, we don't have evolution. So the next point is that you need to help build the narrative of your legacy. Okay, every action that you do is building the narrative of your legacy, and this part of the narrative, specifically when it becomes the metaphysical narrative or the mythological narrative of existence, is very important for the next episode about how to become a legend. But for now, what you need to understand is that when you are becoming the GOAT, you are developing a discourse, you are developing uh, uh, a narrative, you are developing a story with every action, with every movement that you take. So help to build that with a good language. All right, and help to build that with a good reputation and with a good standing in order to be in the conversation for the GOAT. Because if you are building your narrative as a very irresponsible man or woman, a woman that it doesn't kind of care, and you are not attentive to details, and you are not doing the right thing, well, at the end of the day, you may have all the skills, you may have all the objective data, but if your narrative is crazy as heck, if your narrative is not powerful, you may be out of the conversation, man. That is the sad truth. Your narrative, your story, your reputation is very important. And remember, you can engineer those things to play in your favor and to have a more powerful impact in the world. So the next definite step is that when everyone thinks that your game, or that you are done, do a final round. And this is a teaching that my wife taught me. She told me, Derek, she's a brilliant woman. She told me, oh, Derek, every man and every woman, they have always a last battle in their bloodstream. And I said, what is that? And she told me, I called that the Wolverine Effect. And I told her, what is that? And she told me, have you seen the last movie of Wolverine, in which he's an old dude, but he go and fight one last time? And I said to her, no, I haven't watched that. And she told me, well, that is an archetype. That is a pattern of existence. Like every time that you are getting old, you do one more round. Like Michael Jordan did it with the Wizards. LeBron James is doing one more round. Maybe he will go to Cleveland to do his one last round. He's getting older. He's not the same, but he has experience. He has heart, and he has a lot of spirit. So those things compensate for the body. Like, for example, Stone Cold Steve Austin, one of the greatest of all time. He came to WrestleMania a couple of weeks ago, and he fought with Kevin Owens and his stoner Vince McMahon one last time. It's like that hunger. The Rock came back with John Cena. Um, it's like we all have this final hunger. Like people think that we are done. People think that we are out of the game, but we still have a little bit more. So whenever people think that you are out, perfect, my friend. That is the perfect moment to to reorganize, and to go after the prize again one more time. And my friend, this is the last one. And this is the most important one of them all. If you cannot master this one, you probably will never be the. Man, that noise is worse and worse every time that I do it. The greatest of all time, the GOAT. Alrighty, this is the one. Open your heart, open your soul, open your mind, and open your notebook. Is that you need to love the process to be the greatest of all time. And for this operation to be self sustainable, you need to love the process, because if you are only attached to the process, and if you are only focused on the process without loving the process, man, how this will be sustainable in the long term? It will not be sustainable. You need to love this, man. You need to infect, you need to contaminate this whole process with universal love, universal acceptance. I have an episode on that. Please search on my YouTube channel. It's on English. Universal acceptance, for more information about this spiritual virtue that will give you maximum love. Just search on my YouTube channel or Spotify, Derek Israel, Universal Acceptance. So you need to love the process. Don't forget about it. Just focus on the data, focus on the records, focus on the discipline, focus on the competition, focus on disrupting and finding your own style, focus on create your own movement, and divide the public. Focus in the long game, focus on the training, focus on the disciples, focus on your students, focus on their narrative, focus on giving your last shot, your last round when times come, but also focus, my friend, on the love, on loving every aspect of it, of turning this effort, this adventure. Remember, this is an adventure. This is why this excitement. I don't care if you do it or not. It doesn't matter. Hey, it doesn't matter. This is not about achieving. This is about the adventure, man. This is about conquering. This is about the journey. This is about who you become in your way to be the GOAT. Who you become in your way to be the GOAT. Don't forget to love, to play, to create, to laugh in the process. Always, 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 as the dad, and I will finish with this one, as the daddy and trainer of the greatest of all time in the tennis division and the tennis industry, Serena Williams. His father, if you haven't watched that movie of Will Smith, uh, I don't know how that movie is called. I forgot how the movie is called, but just watch. Look Serena Williams, Will Smith on Google, and you will. Let me just search for it because I don't want. I want to give you the information. Ray Richard. Ray Richard. King Richard. It is on English. Sorry, Ray Richard is on Spanish. King Richard is on English. Watch that movie because that movie will teach you a lot of these principles. For two women that both are considered the GOAT, and they are both sisters. They are Serena Williams and her. I forgot her name. The sister that also was the best of all time, the greatest of all time, and and they have the same father, and he always told them, if you watch the movie, you can verify, hey, remember, have fun in the court. And my father used to tell me the same thing when I was playing basketball when I was a kid. Have fun. Because if you forget to have fun, you forget it all, my friend. Do not forget to be the greatest of all time, but to be it in love. This is the most transformational podcast in the world. And my name is Dr. Derek Israel. Please subscribe and follow these stations if you find that this helped you, because I will continue helping you for free for the times to go, because I'm going for being the best of all time. And this is what I do, folks. All right. So remember that this podcast is also on Patreon. You can donate only $5 per month, and you can help me to continue transforming thousands of lives for free through this podcast. Also, remember, you can find that link in the description. Every link that I recommend, you can find in the description. Okay. Um, Also, do not forget to share your comments in the comment section. I want to know, hey, what another step that I missed? This is not by any chance the absolutist list. This is just kind of a random list. So it's not a random list. It's the list that I have been developing for all over the years. But what I'm trying to say, it is that it is not a formal or a absolutist list. It is not a definitive one. You can find other ideas. You can reach your own conclusions of what it takes to be the best of all time, the GOAT. So I want you to write that on the comment section, because I want to learn from you. And I also want the community to learn. Don't forget about sharing this in your social media, in your chat groups, and with your friends. If you share this information with them, there's a possibility that they will achieve this high status of being the greatest of all time. And also, mm, I want to mention that I'm about to publish my first book. I have the ambition of becoming the greatest author of all time. So let's see, how can I do it in the next 80 years of career that I have? If God give me the health, I know He will. Um, so I'm gonna release and publish the expected, is kind of a crazy book that everyone is expecting right now. I believe it's gonna be the most powerful book in the world. It is called Terapia con Derek in Spanish. In English, Therapy with Derek, and that it will be launching very, very soon. So grab your copy as soon as I launch. I don't want you to miss yours. And also go and visit derekisrael.com. Here is the official store. You can find all the courses that I have: sexual mastery, meditation course, life purpose, self love. Um, Also, the course around uh, how to be a top content creator. You can find my coaching service if you want 101, consulting service, very soon psychotherapy, very soon the books, everything. You will be able to find it in derekisrael.com. So give me a visit, and remember, it is only about to become the greatest of all time, not because of the achievement, but because of the love and the fun and the journey that you will have in your road. Become the GOAT, my friend. Become the. Okay, now it's time to go. Bye.